Kevin Nelson. Here's a look at what's going on this week in the news. We begin with news from around the country. In the wake of the worst mass shooting in U.S. history, Orlando Bishop John Noonan is urging the faithful to pray for the victims, the families, and first responders of this tragic event. Early on Sunday, a lone gunman identified as 29-year-old Omar Mateen opened fire inside the Pulse, a gay nightclub in Orlando. The shooting rampage left 49 people dead, including the gunman, and 53 wounded. Reports said that Mateen pledged allegiance to the Islamic State terrorist group. In response to the tragedy, priests, deacons, and counselors from the Diocese of Orlando and Catholic Charities of Central Florida were serving at an aid center established by city officials. Bishop Noonan also asked all parishes in Central Florida to offer their prayer intentions for the victims, and he led an evening prayer vigil for the community at St. James Cathedral on Monday. Pope Francis also offered his prayers for the families and victims and expressed hope that people would find ways to identify and uproot the causes of such terrible and absurd violence. And news from the Vatican now, celebrating the Jubilee Mass for the sick and disabled. Pope Francis spoke out about the throwaway culture that plagues the world today. Rome Reports has more from St. Peter's Square.
Even the rain falling on St. Peter's Square early in the morning couldn't prevent one of the most colorful masses of the year, the Jubilee of the sick and persons with disabilities. Throughout the Mass, there was a simultaneous translation into sign language. Gospel passages were read by the participants, and there was a theatrical representation of one of the readings.
Non avendo essi di chi restituire, condonò il debito a tutti e due. Chi di loro dunque lo amerà di più?
The Pope's homily was devoted to the sick who were in the square. Pope Francis again turned against the throwaway culture and said that human nature is characterized by serious physical limitations, although these days people want to deny that reality.
Nell'epoca in cui una certa cura del corpo è divenuta mito di massa e dunque affare economico, ciò che è imperfetto deve essere oscurato perché attenta alla felicità e alla serenità dei privilegiati e mette in crisi il modello dominante.
The day before the Mass, the Pope held a special audience for participants in a conference sponsored by the Italian Bishop's Office for Catechesis for Disabled Persons. Rome Reports was there for this special encounter.
It was perhaps the meeting with the most hugs, kisses, and selfies during his pontificate. Upon arrival, the Pope also greeted participants with sign language. It was an encounter with both volunteers and the disabled to reflect on how they should be received within the Church. Their time together was a chance to ask the Pope questions and hear his answers. I'm in a group of young people, and this year we will go to World Youth Day in Krakow. However, I know many young people, like me, are not so comfortable in their parishes, cannot receive communion, and cannot go to Mass with others. I do not understand. Can you explain it to me?
Serena mi mette in difficoltà. Perché se io dico quello che penso, Serena ha parlato di una delle cose più brutte che ci sono fra noi, la discriminazione. È una cosa bruttissima. Tu non sei come me, tu vai da là e io di qua. Ma io vorrei fare la catechesi, in questa parrocchia no. Questa parrocchia è per quelli che si assomigliano, che non ci sono differenze. Questa parrocchia è buona o no? Pensa a un sacerdote che non accoglie tutti. Che consiglio darebbe il Papa? Ma chiude la porta della Chiesa, per favore. O tutti o nessuno.
More news now from the Vatican. Marking the World Day Against Child Labor, June 12, Pope Francis called on the world to eliminate the root causes that force millions of children into slave labor. The Pope said child labor deprives millions of children of their fundamental rights and exposes them to grave dangers. The Pope made his comments before his Angelus address to people gathered in St. Peter's Square. The International Labor Organization, the ILO, estimates that 168 million children are engaged in hazardous, demanding, or morally reprehensible forms of work that deprive them of basic education, dignity, and development. The ILO urged businesses to guarantee their supply chains were free from child labor. And finally in the news, the 5th Annual Fortnight for Freedom begins June 21st with an opening mass, which can be seen here on Catholic TV at the Basilica of the Assumption of the Blessed Virgin Mary in Baltimore. Archbishop William Laurie, chairman of the USCCB's Ad Hoc Committee for Religious Liberty, will be the celebrant and homilist. The closing mass will be celebrated on July 4th at the Basilica of the National Shrine of the Immaculate Conception in Washington with Cardinal Donald Wuerl. Pittsburgh Bishop David Zubik will be the homilist. It's Bishop Zubik's name that's on the court case brought by many Catholic and other religious entities, including the Pittsburgh Diocese, to challenge the federal requirement that all employers provide employee health coverage of contraceptives and abortifacients, even if they are morally opposed to such coverage. Information about the fortnight and various resources to help plan local observances are available online at fortnightforfreedom.com. And that is all the information we have for you at this time. I'm Kevin Nelson. Don't forget, you can keep up to date on Catholic news throughout the week with Catholic Newsbreak right here on the Catholic TV network.